You may have heard a while back that the entire internet managed to convince Sony that Morbius was actually a good movie and that we were all just busy the week that it came out. They proceeded to convince Sony that if they were willing to spend the millions of dollars to keep it in theaters longer worldwide, that we would definitely go see it and it would become a success. So they did, and we didn't. And people laughed their asses off at out-of-touch executives who clearly had no idea what their consumers wanted and had no idea that they were being trolled by the entire internet. My favorite tweet from that time was one that I can't find anymore, where someone said that they wanted desperately for Morbius to come back to theaters because Morbius is their favorite of the Spider-Men, and that's just funny. And now, Helldivers 2 seems to be another example of Sony just dropping the bag. As many people are aware, it was announced a little while ago that to keep playing Helldivers 2 on PC, you would have to make a PSN account and link it to your Steam account. They told people at the time that this was due to security issues and the fact that it didn't work when they first launched, which of course was a total lie. Even though a lot of people out there, myself included, are pretty stupid, there are some people who aren't. Those people very quickly pointed out that if you have a second account linked to a single game, doesn't that actually make a second avenue available to hackers and actually make the overall system a little bit less secure? The answer to that was Sony going, oh, and not really saying anything else. It became very clear very quickly that the only real benefit was a corporate one. That some idiot who took business as a major, like myself, looked back at a marketing textbook he had in year one and said, oh hey, if people have accounts on your system, they're more likely to buy things, and we like it when numbers go up. Unfortunately, they didn't count on the fact that year one marketing is bullshit. And they also didn't account for the fact that a not insignificant portion of the player base is in countries where the PSN network doesn't exist. And in the regions where it is active, you have other people who are sick and tired of making an account for every single goddamn game that we want to play. So Sony and Arrowhead, because of Sony, instead of listening to their player base, decided to say, F you, and double down. They assumed that people would just sort of knuckle under. I mean, you want to play your favorite game, right? The response from players instead has been a massive F you to Sony. Sony then assumed that, like every other time people say F you to a major corporation, it would eventually just blow over and the whole thing would just be over in a few months. Instead, a shit ton of people refunded the game, left incredibly negative reviews that have tanked the overall review of the game on Steam, and have posted all over the internet about how ridiculous this is and how they are never buying another thing from Sony in the future. Well, apparently, when you threat the viability of a cash cow, the corporation tends to take notice, because Sony just announced last night that they would no longer be requiring a PSN account. So whether you call it a boycott or not, it clearly worked. It'll be really interesting to see where this goes in the future, and see if the people who refunded the game go and buy it again. Because if they don't, Sony will have effectively killed a game that was run by developers that up until now have garnered a lot of goodwill with their community. My prediction is that they'll try something like this in the near future, and see if they can get away with it in a different context. Either way, all Sony's done is caused harm to a developer that seems to really care about the player base and have a really good rapport with the player base. And they've also managed to somehow harm the only thing they care about, which of course is their bottom line and the potential for future earnings. Because they could have just spent years making free microtransaction money off of Helldivers 2 if they'd learned to just keep their mouths shut.